Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Gaurav Batra, founder of CyberFrat. So, just as you all know, that we are during this 21 lockdown days, we have committed that we will be doing a session daily for 21 days. So it's a 12th session. But apart from this, with these sessions, we are trying to continue with our programs as well. So, like we continued with our CyberFrat Thursday session. This session, which we are doing today, is a specialized session which we call CXO Connect. So, as you know, in this session, we try to bring industry leaders and give all our members the opportunities to, uh, hear on some topic, and as well as a time to where you can ask the questions directly to the leaders, and you can ask for your career mentorship or any other plan. So like risk management, cyber security, or emerging technologies, those are three pillars of cyber threat. So we are trying to bring leaders from who are working in these technologies or on this area. So today I'm privileged to announce having Bharat Panchal as our leader of this month on our call. So in this CXO Connect, we have Bharat with us. So Bharat is an exceptionally talented. Let me mute you all. So Bharat is an exceptionally talented risk management and information security professional with technical expertise and leadership skill in program, project, IT operations, quality certification, and business continuity management, with more than 2 decades of experience within banking, insurance, securities, and telecommunication. So, Bharat is currently working as CRO of India, Middle East, and Africa FIS. So, Bharat, we are privileged and happy to have you here. And first of all, very thank you for accepting this invitation from us and giving some time to us. And over to you now. Thank you.
Very much, Gaurav, for introducing me. Good morning to all. My name is Bharat Panchal. Many of you may be knowing me. Maybe I could see some of them. Some of you have worked very closely with me. So I'm indeed very privileged and glad to be connected back with you. I'm sure that everyone is, enjoying lockdown, whether it is post or whatever the situation we are today. Let's pray for the betterment of the society, for the world, and kind of prosperity. What we are looking forward ahead. Uh, my experience goes with telecom and the banking industry for many decades, and kind of better experience which I have got from the startup point of view. So I had the privilege to work in two biggest startup of this country, and that too when that was a revolutionary organization which has changed the way we are doing business, or way we are doing banking or telecommunication. So my first startup, I would still say it was a startup called Reliance Communication way back in 2002, which has changed the way we are doing communication today. And that was grassroots greenfield company started way back by Dhirubhai Ambani and Mukesh Ambani, later on taken over by Anil Ambani. But that was something, great experience and kind of knowledge I got how the startup business, or how we can start the business right from scratch and bring to the level what it is today. So that was the first experience. And the second, as many of you know, I was heading risk management at NPCI, National Payment Corporation of India, which has brought the best in class across world the payment solutions for the country, and RuPay, IMPS, and last but not least the UPI, the most revolutionary product which NPCI has given as a gift to the country. So I had around 9 years, 9 years stint in NPCI. So in recent time, I would say the NPCI the biggest successful startup of this country. So whatever little experience I have from both this organization, which I'm going to share with all of you, I would be happy to have a question during the session, after the session. So please do not hesitate to ask a right question at right point of time. I'll happy to answer. So let me start with a little background about how we as a country has evolved. 1 minute. Some, some, yeah. So when we look at country, I mean, we as a as country, how we are prosperating and kind of betterment of the society. We have seen that we as country has 1.3 billion population, and out of which, if we see the real excess of new gen technology, be it I'm talking about when technology do not concentrate only on the banking and payment or telecommunication, but I'm talking about the technology at large. Because when we have seen upscaling or upgradation of technology, let me give a very small example that when we are watching Ramayana today, in the era of Netflix and Hotstar and Amazon, that Ramayan picture quality is nothing but very deteriorated or very poor grade quality. But that was once upon a time was the best in class, and still you don't believe there are people in this world. In this country have not seen the better technology than Ramayana. So what I'm trying to bring here is that while we all are in the best advanced technology, there's one third of population is still not having access of basic thing like banking and telecommunication, or the better communication way more than speed post or something like that. And we have around 1 billion mobile phone, but still the dominance is coming from the the larger community which stays in urban or the metro area. So with that, if I have to see that what has India has got a lot of digital wave, the benefit of government policies and so on and so forth. But if you see inclusivity of bringing the society in the digital wave, of course, one of the big change which we have seen from the demonetization days, where we are forced to likely or unlikely, we are forced to use the technology for making payment and other things. So with that, the introduction of DBT and GSTN, which has not only brought the transparency, but it has brought efficiency and given a lot of positive result to the government and the officers to make it more effective. Uh, Data has become a commodity today, and if we see in the world, across world, India is the only country where you get cheapest rate of data, banking, telecommunication, any services what you are getting. So that has become a commodity, and it's no more left as the exclusivity of a special class. A new banking model which has emerged. So, small finance bank, payment bank, mobile wallet, USSD, these, that. So, all this has given a lot of boost. And at the same time, if I have to go beyond banking telecommunication, Swiggy has emerged, the Oyo has emerged, the kind of Flipkart and all this new model, which all has emerged only in last 1 decade. And because of that, the customers are having much more choices. Because when I'm going back 30 years ago, we had only Doordarshan. We had no choice but to wait at 8:40 p.m. For national bulletin to come, and there was no other meaning of getting any news or any communication that way. So compared to that, today we have ample choices. We have real-time news feed. So that's where customers are also becoming more and more demanding, and they are asking for more and more services. But not only that, a lot of new digital building blocks also has emerged. And the digital transformation took place because of AI, blockchain, the cloud as arrived. Real-time decision making also came along with the risk scoring and all this. So that has expanded the creative thinking and made the society more and more, the kind of newer technology what we have brought. So the society's got benefited because of that. Now, if I have to go from the byproduct of that. So because of all these revolutionary things, and uh, to take any startup or any business per se, the technology is backbone. It's not that it's a kind of monopoly of a particular sector, be it telecom, banking, or this. Even in the cement plant, even in the manufacturing process, mining, train, railway, air, everywhere there is a technology, and therefore, if there is a technology, there is a data. And if we just, I'm just bringing my data here because that is something one underlying risk which I have not. I'm not going to talk much about that, but it is something very very important to know that now the data is not a particular person or particular set of people are having, because if you see in earlier eras we had data with the government, and it was with it was with very very exclusive set of people. But today in 21st century, in 21st century, see, the minimal data is with government. But when we go and give data at multiple places, multiple cycle recycling and recycling is happening on their data, and data is going out and out. So the because of that, the global economy and cyberspace have converged, and they are bringing different set of risk, which I think the fundamental thing which any startup or anybody has to take a cognizance of that risk, because that's going to be underlying risk for everything. But let me switch to the real topic of today, because that's where many of you are very very interested to know about how the startup risk are emerging and how we are going to manage. So why I had given the background of India's digital wave and where the country is moving ahead, because India is the third largest startup ecosystem, which has added around 1,300 tech startup only in 2019. Uh, as per NASCOM report, which was released very recently, it says that around 95 to 105 unicorn would be from India alone by 2025. Of course, Corona was not there, so but even still, Corona has given a lot of opportunity for us to come with a newer and newer startup. You know, Startup and a lot of business opportunities would be there. But uh, with this, any startup business when we are doing so, it generates a lot of jobs, and therefore. In last 1 year, around 60,000 direct job uh, generated by startup business in our India, in our country, and in 2018 it was around 40,000. So that is going to be that is going to be a successful story in coming year coming ahead, because startup is meant to give a generate a new job. But when when we are talking about any business, even in a startup, there's always risk associated with that, and especially when it's come to a startup business, the risks are multi-field, because the first and foremost thing here is the uncertainty, because we are not sure that what kind of risk you are going to encounter, what is the customer's preference, what they want really, and which technology to rely. There are so many things which you are not aware at the beginning. And on top of that, there would be overall policy, or what would be economical situation. Let's for example that somebody who has thought of start launching a startup venture in January 2020, nobody had any clue about the consequence, the current situation because of the complete lockdown. So how it has impacted on economy. So that is one of the risk which uh, nobody envisages. So therefore, it is very very much crucial for to be aware about risk that one has to manage, and also to prioritize appropriately when you are entering to or venturing to the startup business. So you may have question that why does the risk management needed? Just hold on for a minute, please. Yeah. So I'm back. Sorry. So why risk management? Because when we are starting a business, everybody has a focus to launch and to come with newer proposition, newer services, newer technology. So risk comes at a very later stage. That's the general perception. But I would take it differently because risk and opportunity are complementary. So since there's a business, there's a risk, and you have to run the business having those risks in mind, and therefore you have to think about the risk management at the time when you're thinking about any new venture or any launch in a company. So there's a sometimes situation involved that there are greater risks. Hello. Yeah. So risk is integral part of entrepreneurship. You can't leave risk aside and launch your business or any startup. So let me go through uh, the major risk what I as the professional think in the startup business. So one is the biggest and rather the foremost risk which one has to think of from the market perspective, because absolutely, just because I'm launching a product, it will become successful. That is not going to be necessary. The successful criteria, because there's no guarantee that you'll have good market and customer will like a product and so, because of course if there is nothing available and you are the only one, which is a monopolistic business which will continue for time being till the time you don't have any competition in place. But that is not sure that how long you will not have competition. Right, because let's say, for example, of BSNL and MTNL, till the time there was no competition from, the uh, Reliance or what you call Vodafone, and so many company came. So in telecom, there was no risk. So till the time we don't have competition and the customer has no choice but to buy your product, you are safe. But the moment the competition enter, you are exposed and vulnerable. The second one is about your finance, of course, because every startup starts with a newer idea. But to materialize that idea, you need to have a finance, right? And when it comes to finance, venture capital or whosoever want to invest money in your idea, they have their own, kind of calculation. They would be see about the viability, the proposition of product, the placement of the product, and at the end of the thing, that everybody is giving you money to earn. So uh, until unless that capital or whatever investment the person is making in your idea, if there is no chance that you will not make sufficient profit or you will not pay this loan back, then probably you may not able to get the necessary finance to start your business. While you have idea, you have finance, but and you have a technology, the bigger risk today is your people risk, because you when you want to start business, you require some good people, because it is not at all a single person job. You may require a good set of people, those who are good at the execution, those who are good at the planning, those who are good at the market sales, and so on and so forth. So a founder can just come out with a vision, come out with an objective, come out with an idea, but to materialize that you need some set of people, those who will not only be your strong hand, but they will be a torch bearer, or they will take responsibility for certain tasks which will place you and your company at next level. So unless you have the certain people certain paper people in hand, you you are exposed to the risk of good skill resources and their performance coming from the people risk. Uh, the fourth one is about your characterizing, because it is just impossible, like how to place a market, how to place a product in terms of your pricing methodology, because you really don't know that whether X is good price or Y is good price, whether you are overpricing your product or underpricing your product. So that will come as a bottleneck unless you are in position to determine the correct price. Because once you start, again, I would quote the example of the telecom sector. Many of you may have paid 18 rupees for outgoing call way back in 1995, 1996, when telecom mobile started in our country. From 18 rupees, just slashed by 30 paisa per minute when Reliance launched their service in 2002. So now the Reliance took a call, correct whether pricing is correct or not, because it was from 18 rupee to 30 paisa was completely sea change. But there was a strategy to capture the larger market with affordable services, and something similar we did when we launched NPCI. The same, the banking charges or switching charges was slashed by just 50 paisa compared to 8 rupees, 10 rupees that point of time. So, but that was a correct pricing strategy deployed. So, in the startup venture, the correct pricing strategy is not deployed properly, then you are obviously running a risk of correct pricing issues. Last but not least, and which is in today's time very, very prevailing about the risk which we are exposed to day-to-day operation, natural disasters, civil unrest, and market economics, and pandemic like corona. But the success of startup lies with, most importantly, with the government policy as well, because up one policy can upscale you like anything, and the same time it can bring you down, or it can ruin the complete market for startup in any because of any policy from the government. Uh, so let me elaborate a little bit about the people risk, because that's something very important point. Because losing good people and hiring bad people are the biggest risk. Because if till the time you have good people, you know that they are going to manage. But if you do not have a right mix of people, which are having mixed talent and the seniority kind of exposure, and very importantly, that when a person, seasoned person or senior person join from, let's say, established organization to a startup, one of the important, risk what that person is taking to join in your organization, because uh, he or she is a good established person and joining in your organization, so he himself is taking a risk. So when that kind of people are joining, the biggest task for startup founders is to retain that skill set of the senior person in your system. So sometime you have to take a kind of a trade-off, that smart and hardworking people need to be retained, irrespective of gap between their specific skill and your need. Because the way you will grow your startup, they will also skill up your they skill up their skill and that. So there's a trade-off which I would suggest you can consider. Uh, Now, the finance is the backbone for your startup. So your various finance related risks need to be factored, because we are a startup, because you are new in the market. Sometimes the customers try to exploit also, that okay, no, we want 180 days credit period, or with some condition, and block money and bank. So your entire business can be at risk. Your customer refuse to pay your invoice, because you, at the beginning, you may not have hundred of customer where one or other customer continue to pay, and you keep your working capital running and moving like that. But uh, in startup, you hardly few customer, and if one or two refuse to pay, then you are always running a risk of a credit risk. The cost of raw material could rise suddenly, because that you really don't know that what do you have factor at the time of planning, and when you reach the execution level, a sudden spike in raw material cost, or any other services, then uh, you have problem. A third would be if customer switch to a competing product and no longer buy your product and service anymore, and you are completely in deadlock situation because you really have no idea, you have no control of, because they are free to choose a service or product from anybody else, then continue with you, right? Uh, Forex rate is one important, because today business rely much on forex. So like what is happening today, that before corona become pandemic, global pandemic, the dollar rate was around 70. Today it has gone to 76. So that is a direct impact on the business, because that will, when you are importing something, you have to pay a higher cost, of course. The techie companies, those who are more into export of services, they're always gaining, but it is not true for every other businesses like that. So the action rate is one of the important factor. Something similarly with the interest rate also, because currently considering the current situation, the interest rate are becoming lower and lower. But the moment we are out of this pandemic situation, I'm sure that the rate would go like anything, and that risk would be very, very difficult to manage at that point of time. So that is something important aspect. Uh, and last but not least, the slow economy, where the best example is current period, where however good things what we have with finance or people and everything, but global economy is slow. Rather, it is come to standstill. So that can reduce complete demand of your product and services. Uh, Somebody asked me about why that concentration has to be considered as one of the important risks, and I would I would really I have experience. I've seen a couple of people where they have literally ruined the business because they did not expand their product or services from one segment, one single product, and the same time they were concentrated only and only on one big customer. So if one big customer decide to shut down the services, or stop taking your product or services, entire of your entire business of that company goes for toss, because there is no alternate customer, there is no continuous supply, for any other customer. Same time, a single product also can be a major threat, because all of a sudden if that become obsolete in the market and you have no idea how to I think that happened in auto industry at one point of time, where a scooter, Bajaj scooter or Vespa, and that was once upon a time very, very, very popular two-wheeler. But with the introduction of bike, so bike was more convenient, more fashionable, and so on and so forth. So all of a sudden the auto industry got the impact because of the bike, and scooter was disappeared. Something similar happened in radio as well, when TV and internet and all new sort of entertainment option came. Radio was eradicated once upon a time. Okay, thanks to FM channel, which got it back. But that is something which was not considered at that point of time. So here some that is very important risk which one should always consider, that in the time your business become mature and you have diversified portfolio of services, product, and so and so. So that is important for long-term sustainability of your business. Uh, Last but not least, the whole startup business is relying, especially I'm seeing from our country perspective, that the government policies are very, very important factor for a startup business environment. The whole ecosystem has a lot of benefit coming from the government. Like say, for example, tax holiday for 10 years, and they are given exemption from various services to be charged, not to be charged, even in GST and all this. So, but that that will not be continued forever. Like in IT service, there's a 10A, 10B for STPI benefit, which are extended to the services company. But that is not a lifelong. That is an irrespective of business size and your number of years in business. Once the government decides that the policy is for 5 years, on the 6th year, now your business will be at toss if you are not fitting into the different criteria, and therefore the government policies are very, very important. You need to factor into, and you have to closely monitor, because one single change in policy can drastically impact to your business. So how how I would like to conclude in a way that the startup business is definitely full of risk and definitely a lot of potential. uh, we have seen that kind of startup, like one good example of Vijay Shekhar Sharma, the way he has brought out the Paytm wallet and changed the whole revolution, changed the whole ecosystem today. Even long back, even in 1984, 82, Narayan Murthy and six ton, founder startup Infosys with just 7 people and 10 investment from Sudhamurthy. Today, Infosys has 2.5 lakh people worldwide, one of the most respected corporate house in our country. So, that a lot of potentials are there, but to be a successful startup, one must learn to accept the risk. But first, you need to identify the risk. What are the risks which you foresee, which are definitely going to impact to you and your business, and you need to learn to accept those risks that are unavoidable. And since it is inevitable, you have to mitigate those risks and manage it. If you can't manage, you have to accept those risks, or you can put some safeguard around that major risk, so you can take care of those risks with a good core team and definitely a talented employees. Business friendly government policies and diversified product and market channel are the real risk mitigant for for the startup, because while we all are in this business, irrespective of startup or batch or any other business, there are four pillars which you will definitely have to live with, and there's no choice. One, the customer trust, because irrespective your startup or venture, the customer trust. And first, for a startup to gain customer trust, establish that rapport and continuously increase the trust among the potential and current customer is one of the important aspect for any startup. The second would be to build a reputation and business. Uh, the third would be you have best practices for business ethics, the risk identification, and how good you are in compliance to the various policies. That is something which you will have to always live with. You can't deny, you can't get away from that. Uh, Irrespective of size of business, you have some obligation coming from the regulatory aspect, be it uh, in the banking segment or telecom segment or insurance or any business you are into. There are certain regulatory aspects which you need to comply. And one important thing which I have seen in last 3-4 years, which has developed, that every regulatory guideline are focusing more toward the customer services and their security of the overall ecosystem. So that regulation and its compliance is another pillar which you have to live with. This uh, proper risk framework, because you are into a business where a lot of uncertainty and unknown factor are much more compared to any other business. So you have to continuously assess your business from the risk perspective. And when you identify that, you have to always try to match with any regulation, be it RBI, SEBI, Basel, ISO, or industrial relationships. So there are so many risk uh, parameters which you may have to comply. Uh, as I started with the safeguard from data, because every business generates a lot of data, and hence they are all vulnerable to some or other compromise with any breach. So once any small set of breach happen, it will address the impact to your brand value and business. You may land up with civil and legal liability in a lot of litigation. So therefore, the fourth pillar is always try to have always ensure that the security is given enough emphasis on your business. Uh, Last, as I always quote as my favorite thing, that Life is a balance between risk and benefit, and we have to choose what is best at what point of time. So, with that, I would like to end my session, and I would be happy to take questions if the moderator permits to me. Thank you very much, all of you, for listening me
Thank
quietly.
Sure, Bharat. It's a fantastic session, and this session is all about Q&A. So I am expecting any questions from the audience today. And before that, I think I have a question with me, which was submitted. Let me get that. Well, guys, anyone have questions? Just you can unmute yourself, or you can raise your hand, or in the
Hi. Yeah, hi, this is am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible,
you are.
please.
Okay, my question is regarding business continuity plan. Uh, Probably talking about the recovery model. So startups should focus on that, I believe, yes, but at what level they should be focusing on recovery model or business continuity?
Okay, so what is recovery? You need to first identify your critical area where you may have to. I mean, is it something mission critical? Let's say, for example, a startup providing, the. I will take the Corona model here. That the startup is engaged on continuous testing of some sample. So that is something very very mission critical situation today. So in that, you have to define a recovery plan irrespective of your size of your organization. You have to define what is critical. If it is mission critical, then you have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, because it's a mission critical. Let me give an example of again the banking solution. Banks are on, the online system is on. So while everybody is working from home, there are recovery plan in place which ensures that the show is going on and you are able to transfer your fund online without having any impact whatsoever the situation in which we are today. So the priority identification of mission critical process and designing a recovery around it is the key of the recovery plan.
Correct. Thanks.
Okay, so Bharat, I will like to read a question which I just, someone has submitted that it's a looking at the cost for putting measures and resource specifically for cybersecurity, how startups can plan with the limited budget they have.
Okay, so cyber security is something I would always say that, see, security and quality are not afterthought. Please take it very seriously, because if you think about okay, let us set up the business and we'll think of security at later stage. In today's situation, we are going in the wrong direction. If yes, that was okay 10, 15 or 20 years ago, where security was not at all a main agenda, not at all at the horizon of the big plan. It was later started as one of the tick mark activity. Yes, it is something which we need to keep a focus, and hence it was started the tick mark. That is not the situation today. In everything and every business, again I'm saying, it's nothing to do with only banking and telecom. Every business, security has become integral part of the risk management. So I would suggest that limited budget, you even you have 1 rupee, plan at least 5 paisa or 10 paisa budget for securing a 90 paisa, because the security is very very important in every business today. So again, security and quality which you cannot add at last moment or at later stage, because at the time it will be too late.
Okay. And anything you would like to specify that what they start with minimum, that is the bare minimum they should have, something like that.
Okay, so there is nothing boilerplated framework which can suggest that it is good for any sort of business, depending upon what business you are into, depending upon what kind of threat assessment, because every business has a different threat. Like someone is starting a business about some cybersecurity services, or maybe a supply chain product. both are having a startup at the same time, but they are both into different segment and different set of business. So every business bring a different challenges and different risks. So I would suggest that yes, you can get some good consultant or do a good risk assessment. Okay, what is at your risk? What sort of threat you may expect, and what kind of data, what kind of critical information which can be at risk. Like let's say, for example, an architect or a designer or the pharmaceutical company, the production is not a risk. The biggest risk for pharmaceutical company is the formula which they have created for a particular disease, which is the IP of the pharmaceutical company. Otherwise, making a formulation, making tablet, packaging, and all is common across all entire industry. But for pharma company, the solution or formula is the basic bread and butter for them. So they need to put more and more control around securing their IP rather than securing their plant. Of course, the plant also need to be secure, but the major emphasis goes on the formula saving. So I would suggest that again you have to have good threat assessment about your business, and accordingly you have to put some control in place. There is no standard framework for every business which can adopt for securing the data.
Sure, Bharat. Thanks for that valuable information. And I think, Gaurav, you have put some question on here. You want to speak or you want me to read your question? Okay, I think I can read on behalf of you. It's in the chat. Gaurav?
I think there is a question I can see in my window, that what is your view on risk management job in startup, whether
That's what I was going to
they
read. Yeah.
should be able to sustain COVID-19, where generally risk management people may not be considered as someone who directly contributing to the bottom line. Okay, so if I have to take it this question in differently, that generally when there's a pressure on business and there's a reduction in force, the risk people would be the first in fire line. Is that what you mean to say,
Yes,
Gaurav?
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so the world has changed. World has changed a lot, and I being a risk professional for around 28 years, yes, I do agree with you that that was not the time when the risk was not considered as one of the important area. Like security and risk have grown hand in hand in last decade or so. So I think it's just not because I'm a risk professional, I'm saying, but after COVID-19, all our calculation, all our prediction, all our methodology has gone completely wrong. And therefore, the more and more predictability, more and more scenario analysis would be need of our once a COVID era is over. Because see, I'll give you one good example. That when business continuity we are talking, the business continuity was what? The PR and DR. Then from PR and DR, it was started PR, HA, and DR. From it started intercity, intercountry, intercontinental. There is even intercontinental. Where are we in position to continue our business today? Because let's, for example, we had our BCP in Singapore, and Singapore has a BCP in let's say North Carolina. No one is working. So nobody envisages that even beyond the intercontinental, we can't set up an interplanet business continuity now, right? Because that's the only option left. So something risk management will have larger role to play in coming time, because the corona has impacted every segment of society, every segment of the business across the world. And now that risk has brought many other risks which need to be successfully managed, because in next 10 years the world has gone back 10 years in overall aspect from the economy and the growth perspective. So how to regain that loss of corona would be the major concern. And with the limited resources and limited things, better risk management, larger predictive and proactive risk management will play a major role. That is what is my personal view. So I don't see there would be a problem for risk management people. They will have larger role to play. That's my take.
Okay, thanks, Bharat. Just scrolling it down. After that question, the next is how do you startup of cybersecurity hedge the risk? How can a startup take advantage of current scenario?
How do you start up of cybersecurity hedge the risk? How can you start up take advantage of current scenario? Okay, so it basically what I think there's a question from Pinal, and I understand that how startup can take advantage of current scenario in terms of security. See, one important aspect which we have hurriedly implemented. Of course, it was need of hour, and uh, though we thought of that the PCI environment is something which did not be extended beyond the limit, or everybody cannot work from home. That because when we talk about the strategy to allow critical resources only can access from a designated computer, point to point connectivity, IP to IP access, then on top of that the secure VPN, on top of there's a two-factor authentications, RSS security, and all this that was good at paper and was being used so far legitimately, because such scenario was never ever there where nobody could access to the office or the workplace. That has changed completely. So the we really don't know, when there's a massive flood, it takes everything together, right? We'll come to know about the damage only after the flood has gone completely, and we are trying to find out some of the things in the remainings, which you might have seen during the tsunami. This is not this is something similar to tsunami. We'll come to know about the effect, especially from the security perspective, only once they we will take a stock back once this situation is, because see, every employee working today work from home, and a word of caution that 70% of breaches happened so far involving the internal employees. So I foresee that there'll be lot of will reveal post the corona is over. I'm sure the lot of security breaches will come into picture. Lot of compromise of control will come to picture. So once this whole situation is over, the first and foremost, apart from regaining the business or re-establishing the business, majority of company would ask, let's have a complete security assessment to check what what has changed during this tsunami period, and now how we can restore it back. So I'm quite optimistic that there'll be lot of work for from the cybersecurity perspective. And again, as I said, that is impacting to every business. So a lot of work is coming for cybersecurity perspective.
Yes, very rightly said. Lot of work for cybersecurity professionals. I can see that last 2 weeks, kind of work which is coming in now. Things are okay. So moving to next question, I think few I have in private window as well. But yeah, I think one is this from Jinesh. How can I join some startup as virtual CFO or CISO? Are there any
So
demand for
it's
like?
Sorry, I think I cannot answer for that, because again, it's everything is virtual today. So why CFO, CRO, CFO, CEO, MD, everything is virtual today. So I really can't answer on this part.
Sure. Okay. I think Jinesh, on that, I think if there are any, all the roles today, are can be done virtually. But if some startup or something, they have some requirements, maybe they will post. So it's like there is no way or thing to say how you can do that. But of course, if someone is publishing it and requiring, maybe if CyberFrat goes, I may publish something that we require a virtual CFO or CISO.
No, but I can definitely say, I can definitely add the Gaurav one point here that, see, the belief, there was a belief that a certain thing cannot happen from home, certain thing cannot happen remotely. Everything is happening today remotely, and still work is going on. So yes, to answer Jinesh, yes, it is quite possible that it may no more luxury, no more luxury. In fact, I was reading in one article yesterday that the HR people have already started thinking that why can't, if this scenario, the productivity is little degraded 10 to 10, 20%, but if given chance, given choice, if this we continue post COVID, company can definitely reduce the cost of establishment, cost of electricity, sitting space, and especially those who are in costly offices like in BKC and that area. It may so come that probably people may like to have virtual presence than physical presence in any workplace.
Yep, and I think I don't know from virtual CISO, right? But what Jinesh you exactly mean? What I know, the trend today is CISO as a service or CFO as a service is also available now, but that's a separate concept. Yeah, I don't know if you are on call and you can unmute yourself and want to elaborate more. But moving to the next question, which is from Ibrahim Khatri. Uh, yeah. How do we see the privacy landscape evolving amidst the
I think
COVID-19 era?
I think Jinesh is there, and he's writing that because some startup cannot afford experienced professional. I'm talking from the startup perspective. Okay, so yeah, Jinesh, you're right, because when you're talking about having a dedicated resource to look after security, dedicated resource after the CFO, quite possible that this can emerge as a services. There's no harm. Rather, like the COVID has good byproduct, that it has proven that there's no need for somebody to be physically available. They can continue to work wherever they are. So what you are saying, that yes, that because of startup and they cannot afford experienced people at high cost, there could be a service where virtual CFO, virtual CISO, virtual auditor, all this position will emerge post COVID effect, for sure.
Yep, exactly. So, but yeah, Jinesh, that's amazing thought process. I think more of the new startups or the people, even startups for virtual CFO and CISOs, CROs will come into place.
डॉक्टर इंग्लिश का कॉल है
Okay, so yeah, next question.
It was from
How do we
Ibrahim.
see? Yes, so actually, it's in my private window. Yeah. How do we see the privacy landscape evolving the COVID-19 era, and also the considering we do not have data protection law?
Okay, so see, data protection is something which I'm advocating for many years, and my book, Data Sovereignty is the Supremacy of Pursuit, released last year, in which we have elaborated that why data privacy is going to be key factor for the country. It is unfortunate that in the last parliament session, the law could not be placed on the table of the parliament, and therefore the data protection law could not be imposed. TikTok issue, which we have seen, and some of you might have seen a lot of debate going on last 2 years. America has already imposed a ban on TikTok, and because citing a reason of privacy. I'm worried in current scenario that a lot of privacy breach might happen during COVID. And unfortunately, since we do not have kind of uh, current law or teeth of a law, I really see some flip side of this, or kind of damage to a privacy landscape. What we have brought to this level, which has has gone into limbo because of Corona era, and until unless really we don't have, until unless we have strong privacy law, this will continue to happen. So I agree with you that it's a really a vulnerable area which could have been addressed long back, and unfortunately we are exposed to that vulnerable part today.
Yep. Thanks. And I think moving on, question which I have is cybersecurity essential for startup organizations or is it mandatory for big corporates? I think you have pretty much covered more on that, but anything you want to add?
No, I think it's like is petrol is necessary to ride a bike? Maybe
Absolutely.
you have electricity, electric thing. So I would not say petrol. Let it's a one short of fuel, but is fuel important or necessary to ride a bike? It has a gear, it has a brake. Why fuel is needed? Something you can't live with security. It's because see today, as I'm keep on say as I'm keep on talking right from beginning of this session, or I've been talking in many conferences. Security is something important. In our basic necessity, roti, kapda, and makan are three basic necessity. Take it from me, a decade from now, roti, kapda, makan, and cyber security is going to be a fourth necessity of life, because the way we are becoming so much dependent, leave apart the business, in your personal life, the way we are becoming a more and more dependent on technology, and technology has its own good side, but many of us has not seen the bad side as well. So once the bad side start revealing or exposing you, let's say smart tvs fixed in your bedroom, you can imagine the kind of damage it is going to do to you. Or today, connecting alexa with all your sophisticated equipment at home, it is learning all conversation, or spy camera, or some similar thing, or your allowing a location enable on your smartphone or any other device, how you are being tracked. So we have not seen the bad part, or bad side of that, and therefore we are thinking why it is needed. But take it from me, if we all are there, after one decade, you will see that this is going to be a fourth necessity of our life. With roti, kapda, and makan, there'll be a cyber security.
Very well said, Bharat. Yes, that's gonna be with everything coming digital, of course. And I think next moving to so the advice, Jinesh. Yes, CyberFrat will look into that. See if we can start virtual uh, CISOs or CFO lineup. Okay, so I think Jaydeep has sent me a question. Yeah,
Hello.
Yes, please.
yes, go on.
Yeah, I am Deepak Thakkar. I have a question. After implementing the cyber security, there will be maturity of technology and there will be maturity of the data also. So, how do you propose to keep a cyber audit and what is the level of companies turnover and all that so that they are able to keep the cyber audit on their premise?
If I understood your question correctly, that okay, from startup, when you grow, the maturity business, data maturity always come at one point of time. So along with that, what size of what type of IT auditor, or the cybersecurity auditor to be engaged for your business? Is that what you are trying to say?
Yes, there will be a continuity need of this security audits also. So that is what I am trying to understand.
Okay, so in my view, even many regulatory body also does that. You know. Continuity of auditor is one part, it is good, because they understand the business, they understand the complexity, they understand the whole process flow, and all this is fine. But after few years, they become routine. They become, habituated with the certain things, and therefore it is always advisable. However good auditor you have engaged, but over a period of time, maybe 2 years or 3 years down the line, you may always want to come fresh eyes to see a business, because the classical example of segregation of duty in a business is not that something which imposing a distrust on employee, but a person is a person doing so far, a new person is sitting in his place, he will see from different thing. Let me give a very great two example. The mandatory leave in a business is not something a joy for employee, but it is a control from the risk management side, which can understand that if a, a mandatory leave is given, on his place a new person come, then he may able to find out if there is some shortcoming or shortcuts in the whole process. The great two big fraud in our country, one in 1995 by Ketan Parekh, the Kalapur Commercial Bank, and the recent Nirav Modi in PNB. Both are captured because of the mandatory leave imposed on employee, and the regular people were not sitting on the desk. New people came and they asked the wrong practices, they questioned the wrong practices, and that is how both this fraud came into the light. So having the continuity of the auditor is a risk than a control. So I would suggest it is always advisable to change auditor after 2 or 3 years. Hope I answered your question, Mr. Thakkar.
Yes, thank you. And one more thing which I believe in is, okay, it is better to be preventive rather than to be a post-mortem thing. So better at the time of prevention and keeping the prevention team in a more working manner. That is a more better way rather than the audit part. That is what I mean to ask on that part.
So I think you're right, sir. So in today, there are three layer of defense are very well emerged and rather established with a lot of maturity. The first line of defense and second line of defense are doing really great work. First is the business, and the second is the risk management. So risk. Let me tell you very honestly, I was not liked by anybody in my company because I'm a risk person. So a risk person think very differently. Nobody like us, but that is where we have an ability to question, we have think differently, and that is what we are doing preventively. Because the third line of defense, audit, is nothing but a postmortem. When everything is damaged, audit will come and say, hey, you have done wrong thing. But if your first line defense and second line of defense are strong, they are more as a proactive, more as a preventive rather than detective. So that model has really emerged, and in most of the organization is well established. And therefore, the risk management professionals are getting more and more weightage and more weight, the kind of respect in the organization and the opportunities also.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think, Bharat, so how's your time suggest? So can we spend 10 minutes more? I think there are 3 4 more questions or
Yeah.
time.
Again, my friend Naveen Malhotra has pointed out that a lot of new service going to be get converted into digital space. Yes, Naveen, and that is what exactly I was saying, that instead of physical days, there'll be virtual days. You may continue to work from home, and with the same rate of productivity, because once that you are accepting that as a model, you will come with a newer and newer idea to enhance your productivity, even sitting at home. So I'm sure that I'm equally bullish about the more and more physical days will be converted into the virtual days. I'll go to Ibrahim's question, and he asked me about how bullish are we that the privacy bill will become law in the monsoon session of the parliament session. I would really not in position to answer Ibrahim whether it will be, but yes, I'm part of many think tanks and pressure group representing the government, and last session it was almost a done deal that the bill will be placed in the parliament. now the scenario change in monsoon session. I really don't know that the what is the priority of the parliament's business, because the revival of economy and safety and security of common man would be the larger question, and bring the whole life of common man on on back on the track would be larger emphasized for the government. So I'm honestly, I'm not optimistic about this to happen, but yes, we will represent in a way that along with other priorities, this also can be considered by the government. That is Gaurav, you are taking a question now.
Yeah, I have two, three questions which I put. So one is from Manisha. I can see as the
Okay.
COVID-19 as the COVID-19 crisis has occurred and the startup are going to affect mostly. Can you suggest some contingency valuable suggestions to sustain in this situation?
I would suggest patience. Because everybody is not only startup today. Everybody is impacted, and how long it will continue is unpredictable. Only thing is patience, because we really don't know. But only one thing I'm very bullish, and that's compared to and nothing to disregard the remaining countries, but I believe that India as an economy is going to have greater opportunity coming from the rest of the world, because we are, compared to rest of the world, we are more immune and more rather less damage compared to Europe and America. China has its own problem, and God knows what will happen. All world will gang up against China to bring economic sanction or any other sort of thing. So what I foresee, India has emerged as a very mature leader in such a crisis situation, and more country, more and more people are going to put faith and trust on India and its ecosystem. So therefore, while this time is really very difficult time for every one of us, but once this time pass, I am quite optimistic and quite bullish about the startup, and every corner of business will have ample of opportunity once this pandemic is over. But currently, my only very strong emphasis: keep the faith, keep hope alive, have patience, wait for the pandemic to get over. I'm sure that at the end of the tunnel there's a bright ray coming for all of us. That's my personal opinion.
Sure. And I think, Bharat, so before I think one or two questions, but one important question which I think I have for students specifically, like, who are uh, pursuing their graduations or they want to start their career. If they think like, they want to go into risk management, or what are the scope or how they can start it, what are the suggestions you have that they should go first for technology, learn, then into risk or something? What would be your suggestion for those students who want to
Okay,
pursue career
so
in
I think that's a good question. So and my overall experience is that risk management, of course, it is you have to have today's time. You need to understand the business. Once you understand the business, then only become a risk manager. Because unless you know the business, you will never come to know what you're trying to protect. Because understand, the risk management is not policeman job. You are not a police. You are not here to just look at the scenario and then come at last stage. Risk management is a business enabler, while a business or other segment of the organization wants to run the business more than what they expect. Risk management job is to guide them in the right direction. We, risk always seen as a speed breaker, for from the business side, that we are always we are we are roadblocker from them. No, we are not. We are just trying to slow check, assess, and move. So risk job is little bit different, but it applies the common sense more towards what can go wrong, right? While business is always thinking in one way, risk has little higher responsibility to think weird, think extreme, and think little adverse than others. Second advice, those who wants to start career in risk, please understand, and especially for a student, the professional world is very cruel, and it's not like a rosy picture what you have always studied in college books. Once you become a professional, you realize that how difficult to survive in professional world, and especially for risk manager, no one like you. Please understand, no one will love you, no one like you, because you people bring a problem for the rest of the people. So you have to keep that emotions aside. I generally give, very good example, and many of you must have seen that movie of Munna by MBBS, when Dr. Asthana says that if my daughter is lying on the operation theater, and if my hand starts shaking, I'm not be a doctor. I have to see her as my patient and I as a doctor, rather than I am as a father and she as my daughter. So you have to leave emotion aside. You are then only you become good risk professional. You if the moment you start shaking because one pressure or another pressure, and you start compromising your role, you're not fit to be a risk professional. So that's what is my advice to those who want to pursue in the risk area.
Amazing advice, Bharat. Really thanks. I think
So you
this
have
will
a
be going
time.
to.
So you have a time. So you can go to Netflix and watch Munna by MBBS at particular scene of Dr. Asthana.
Exactly. So everyone can do. I think it's the last two question I have on the screen. So then I think it's Sunday. I will give you plenty of time that you can enjoy that as well. So Jaydeep has something called data privacy non-compliance will become a major threat in coming year. Months as PDPA will become a law. How can existing IT governance and risk professional get themselves for this upcoming challenge?
Okay, so I think while the PDPA or the data privacy law has yet to be enacted as act in our country, many of us have witnessed to a cybersecurity framework which RBI came out in 2016 June, GDPR, because large segment of IT service industry in our country are either serving to the Europe or America and rest of the world, where good data privacy laws are in place, and so we are almost comply to that. So that is one, but this would be a challenge for sure, that only IT company, only companies serving in India without having any legislation. I would still suggest that cybersecurity framework, not only from RBI, it has come out from SEBI, it has come out from TRAI. So the major BFSI segment is now governed by some or other framework. The existing IT governance risk professionals should revisit that framework. They need to revisit that PIIs, whether it is identified, not identified, and very importantly, the one which was PII not considered some point of time, because of the larger exposure of information in wider range of people. Because as I said earlier, earlier, out of 100 people, only 2 or 3 were expected to work from home, and therefore the control were limited, keeping all those 3 people in mind. Now out of 100, 99 are working from home. The exposure is high. Everybody is not at their senior level. Everybody is not having the same level of the control. And one important aspect, that in this pandemic situation, not everybody is working from the laptop assigned by the company or a desktop assigned. BOIOT has another risk factor added in current situation, where you know the BYOD situation in our country. We have all freeware, no antivirus, no antivirus in on our mobile, or at least our PC, which we are using at our home for our personal purpose. So in that kind of a compromised machine, you have extended your information for someone to enable work from home. So you have to reconsider that what all data they are accessing, what kind of controls are required, and what are the controls are there in place. I think that's where the challenge the IT governance and risk professional should address the moment they start back to normal situation. That should be a priority for the risk professional to reassess the overall control mechanism.
Thank you, Bharat. Okay, so Pradeep, who could be cybersecurity auditor? CSSP holder? I don't think CSSP is mandatory for being a auditor. Any review on that, Bharat?
Not exactly. So, okay. One important parameter for IT auditor is which is global benchmark is a CISA, CISA. But CISA, CISM, CISSP are good to have, but there is no benchmark that or kind of necessity that you have to have CISSP only, because uh, one who has uh, and many of you may have seen that in our country the best network professionals are not a B or technical background. They all are BCom or coming from non-technical background, because they have done CCNAs, MS, that Microsoft MCSC or some other courses. So it's not that just because the guy is having BCom background, he may not be a good network professional. No. So something similarly, if someone has CISSP is a really good added advantage, but is not mandatory.
I think the only thing is now these certifications are one of the kind of gatekeepers where HR may have these criteria. Instead of you interviewing 100 people, you interview just 10, 15 who have the CSSP. Just to add on that, as CyberFrat community, we have decided to do a online CSSP group study where we have subject matter experts from the group CyberFrat community itself who will be the people who are working in network can guide you for the network domain. People who are working in application security will guide you for the application security. This is absolutely no charges for CyberFrat Plus members starting from 11th April to 31st of May, every Saturday, Sunday, 10 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. So 8 domains, 40 hours. This is a kind of a group study where I'm expecting around 200 people will participate in this, and they all will be trained or get trained for CSSP without any additional charge, and then that will spice your purpose. And after that, you want to pursue for certification. That's a separate thing. But that is something we are trying to do from our end so that you don't need to spend on training like 25,000 rupees. Here we, as a member, can do that. Okay, just last, how we can register. So you first become CyberFrat Plus member. Visit cyberfrat.com/plus, then go to cyberfrat.com/CSSP and register over there. And I think last question, Bharatji specifically addressing Vinay Mishra is saying, Bharatji, COVID-19 is the new kind of risk, or such kind of risk were already there in the risk framework or models? Both DR locations nowadays are at risk in the pandemic situation.
Uh, I think Vinay has asked very great question, and I was heading business continuity way back in 2005-6 in the Citibank India. That time there was a pandemic, SARS was erupted, and at that point of time, this sort of thing were considered as one of the risks. So pandemic risk is not a new risk. Only thing which has never ever envisaged by any risk professional that it can be worldwide. That's where the whole strategy went wrong. Pandemic was there, SARS was there, bird flu was there, the many other things were there, but it was never, because when I'm doing in India, at least then it may never happen worldwide. So people went wrong only in that part. So uh, it's not something new. Of course, the DR nowadays are at risk at this pandemic situation, and that's what I say that we thought of a PRDR, PRHDR, intercity, intercountry, intra-country, intercontinental, interplanet was never ever a situation in which we are today, unless we have DR center at Mars or Jupiter. That scenario was never envisaged. So I think this is great learning for the world that the no strategy what we have envisaged so far is hold true today.
Yeah, exactly. Fully in agreement with you. And I think we have covered most of things on time as well. Uh, with this, I will really like to thank you, Mr. Bharat. It was, have been a privilege for CyberFrat fraternity for you to, coming and sharing your knowledge with us. So I'll just say if anyone want to add some last comments or something that you can unmute or Bharat, anything last from your side, and then I think we can wind this up.
No, I think it is a great session, and my sincere thank for everybody to stay with me for last 1.5 hours and listening me very passionately. Uh, Thank you, and only wish that we all come out of this bad time worldwide. We pray for the community, we pray for the nation, we pray for the world, and stay home, stay safe, follow the social distance, and let's pray that next month I'll request Gaurav to have a physical conference, hoping that we all will come out from this bad time.
Definitely, definitely, and I'm just looking forward for that now because all our face-to-face meets are not happening. But yes, I this should go away. We will have a meeting, and I will make sure that Bharat ji is joining us for that physical meeting. Yep.
Would be great pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone, for joining
Thank you,
today,
Bharat.
and yeah, keep looking for next sessions. We still have 10 days of lockdown and 10 more sessions, interesting sessions to come up.
You are too optimistic, Gaurav. It's 10 days just. Can be many more.
It can be. It can be. From my side, I committed 21 sessions. I will complete that. Okay. So we'll see if we can, or what is going to happen after that. But yeah. And on that note, also for just to everyone to announce that for CXO Connect, the plan which we have that in every quarter, when we call CXO, it's all CISO, CRO, CIOs, CO, everyone comes into that. So we already have one CISO for this. We have CRO, Bharat. Next month, we will bring one CIO. So that is the plan that every quarter we will have one CISO, CRO, and CIO to give you a perspective of all three leadership styles. And thank you, Bharat, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone. And keep looking
Thank
for the
you.
next sessions.
Thanks a lot.
Bharat. Thank you, Gaurav.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye bye.